Hello people, and welcome to my video of how to service the Triang Hornby X04 motor. Now, before we continue, there's two inspirations for doing this video. The first is I checked on YouTube, and to be honest, I couldn't find a such video as anybody servicing one of these, which I find strange because the X04 or the X03 and 3.5, the earlier predecessor versions, have been used in Triang and Hornby locos since the 1950s through till the 90s. So we're talking 4 decades, and yet I couldn't find the servicing of one in any kind of detail. The other inspiration for doing this was because there's a guy named Will, and his channel on YouTube is Intercity82. I've watched quite a lot of his videos, and they're very interesting, very informative, and he's a lovely guy, and he explains everything to the T, which I think is pretty cool and pretty good. So I thought it'd be a good idea to show the X04 motor in pieces and how I actually service them. When it comes to any kind of servicing, everybody has their own ideas which is the right and the wrong way to do things, and to be honest, there isn't really a right and a wrong way. It's everybody to their own, how they feel they want to go about something. Now, before we go into this, the actual servicing of the motor requires certain tools. Now again, with tools, everybody has their own idea on which they prefer to use as the type of tools for the job. There's no rule of thumb here. It is all down to personal experience, personal choice. But this is the tools I'm about to show you are what I use to do the job, and for me, they do it really, really good. Right, we'll move. By the way, this you'll notice that this is the Triang SNCF. This is the twin hump one, which I got. I'll get this right in a minute because it's really difficult. I'm on my own here. I don't have any help with the camera, so I'm actually looking at the camera monitor upside down, which means everything's the wrong way around, so bear with me. This came at a brilliant price because the back truck was missing. But as you can see, I've managed to find the correct truck for it. I just need to spray the wheels at the back with the same red as the chassis and the front wheels and the drive wheels. Believe me, this came at a great price, so quite a little snip, and it's the twin hump one, which is the more rare one, and it's absolutely cool. So we'll put this out of the way for a minute, and I'll show you some of the tools. And oh, I forgot, before we go into the tools, let me tell you one bad habit: I bite my fingernails. Not all the time, but some of the time, and not all of them. Some of them are okay. Why I do it, I don't know. Don't ask me. All I'm going to ask of you is to ignore that and enjoy the video. Okay, so the tools for the job. Now it's actually about midnight here in the UK, and I'm glass of whiskey and coke and my electronic cigarette. I'm trying to cut down on my smoking. I'm doing pretty well with this actually, but of course they're not the tools for the job as required. But here's what I use for the job of servicing the kind of X04 motor. That's a little bit of the whiskey kicking in there. Right, okay, first of all, seriously, okay, we have a good quality blade screwdriver. I'm sure you can see that, and I prefer to use the type which has not got the actual it's a straight sided screwdriver. It hasn't got the little flared pieces on the side. I prefer this type of driver. Also a pair of pointed nose pliers, but my friend calls them the bent nose pliers, which I prefer to use. Also very handy, a good pair of non-conductive, non-magnetic tweezers. As you can see, I'll get those a little bit closer, just normal tweezers, made of aluminium, so they are non-magnetic. I have also a piece of emery cloth, normal emery cloth, not quite sure what grade it is, but a bit of emery cloth. I have Cotton buds. You can't do the job without cotton buds. Also, we have right angle for the camera, oil, canister with oil, and a pin. Now you can use a needle or a safety pin, ordinary pin, it doesn't really matter what type it is. We'll come back to that later. Also, now you're going to love this, a compass. Why would you want a compass to service a locomotor? All will be revealed. Also, I have lighter fluid, normal Swan brand, sorry about the advertising there, lighter fluid, the petrol, not the pressurized one, and very handy EvoStick cleaner, or any flammable type of cleaner of a similar nature. I have around 169, if I've got that correct at last count, locos. Now, the unfortunate part about this is I have actually serviced them all. So I don't actually have an unserviced loco to show you. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the service the way I do it, the way that feels right to me, but I'm going to do it with a loco that's already been done. Now, this particular loco, I can't remember how long ago I did service this one, so I'm going to have a look inside and we'll take it from there. So we'll start off by carefully removing the front screw, and I always do everything on my workbench on a towel, on a clean towel. The reason being, when you put the stuff down, it's not going to drop, it's not going to roll away, it's there in front of you so you can see what you're doing. Well, we carefully remove the body of the loco, and I can tell you now by looking at this one that it has already been serviced. So what I'll do here, oh, the smoke unit's just dropped off, no problem. What I'm going to do here, I'm just going to basically show you, this is the X04 motor. Now you can tell it's an X04 because it's actually got the oil pads both there, as you can see there, and it's also got one just there, right at the very front of the worm drive. Now the XO 3.5 only had the front oil pad, and the XO3 didn't have either. So the actual servicing stays the same for all three versions of the motor's life. What I'm going to do is put this cover back on, because I have another loco which has got a chassis which is not very good, and it has the motor on it, and we're going to use that one as the reference. Okay, this is the chassis from an 060. It's actually doesn't work very well. It's had modifications done to it, and to be honest, it's not even worth bothering with the chassis. But the motor itself is fine, and funnily enough, I've actually serviced this one as well. It basically is just a spare motor. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to treat it as an unserviced motor and show you the procedure of which I do to actually service them. So we'll start by removing, as you can probably see, there's a wire attached to the positive here. Now this wire is attached on a little, like a little spring clip really. And to remove it, you have to gently pull the spring back, which holds the brush in place, and remove the wire when I can get hold of it. Sometimes it's better to use the tweezer to pull it out. Okay, now what we do now is we remove the back body screw. The body of the motor screw is at the back. As you can see, if you see, it's there at the back. Okay, so now remove the screw. It's only the one screw holds them. In every case, we remove the screw and we gently put that away on the flannelette towel, again out the way so it can't be lost. Then we gently get hold of the motor and just gently ease it backwards until it pops out like that. Now that's the X04 motor. Now this is one of the later ones which has got the nylon worm drive. A lot of the others have most of the early ones have got the brass drive, which is actually slightly different gearing. Won't actually work with the plastic worm drive, but that's irrelevant because the service of the motor is exactly the same regardless. Okay, right, we'll move the chassis out the way for now, and now we're going to strip the motor down. And like I said, this one has already been done, but I'll do it again as though it hasn't. And it's very simple what we do to start with. We need to remove the brushes. So what I do is just to remove the spring clip that's holding them, like so. There's the spring clip, as you can see, there and there, look. And then we'll just pop it down here and just gently drop out the brushes. One. Sometimes they don't want to come out, and sometimes they'll come out when you don't want them to come out. Okay, so we've now got the two brushes out, and that's the motor. Now remove the spring, which is very simple because it is only hooked around the magnet retaining screw. So there's the spring, and as you can see, it's got an insulator on the positive leg, which we'll come back to that later. There's the two brushes. There is the motor without the brushes, and the magnet is still in place. The first thing I do on servicing a motor of any kind is you have to clean out the commutator. Now, the commutator is the brass piece you can see here. That's the piece where the brushes run. Now you'll see carefully there are slots in the commutator. If it's a 3-pole motor, as this one is, it will have simply 3 slots. Now these slots get a build-up of carbon, which is carbon which comes off the brushes. And what you need to do is very carefully take your pen and just put it in the slot and just literally get the angle right. Slide it across the slot and wipe it on a piece of rag, and then get to the next slot and wipe that as well and put it in on the cloth. And for the third one, very difficult for me this is because I'm actually looking at the camera monitor upside down, which is actually making everything the wrong way round for me. So you clean the slot out with the pin and wipe the pin. Okay, so we now have the slots cleaned out, and we've got markings on the commutator, which is always going to be left by the brushes. That's something that will always happen. Even if you do it the first time you use it, those marks will reappear, but the idea is to get it nice and clean. And the first thing that I do is to get a cotton bud, and I use, now this is very important here, I use the flammable type cleaner like the Eviostic adhesive cleaner. Soak the cotton bud in the flammable cleaner and then clean the whole of the commutator with this. And you can also push it through and clean all the crap that gets built up there. As you can see, it's already starting to show. And this is a service motor, so it doesn't take long before more of the crap starts to appear. So we just clean it all out, and that's actually fine. The thing is, what you have to be very careful with here is that the cellulose type cleaner, if you get it close to any of the locomotive plastic, it will instantly destroy it. It will instantly make a lot of problem on the plastic and spoil things. So you must keep it away from the plastic body. Because the motor's made of metal and alloy and coil and copper wire, apart from the worm drive, which I'm not going to touch it anyway, that's the sort of plastic it would damage, but anything metal is fine. And if you can use this type of cleaner, it is actually better than anything else. If you're coming across something which has got plastic housing or plastic anywhere, like the brush holder or anything like that, then use the lighter fuel instead. It's not quite as good, but it will do the job and it won't damage the plastic parts. Right, now what I'm about to do now is not absolutely essential or critical, but if the commutator is quite badly coloured because of all the carbon and the wear and tear, sometimes no matter what fluid you use, it doesn't actually come that clean. It's not critical that it's spotless, but it needs to be pretty clean. Now, one tool that's not necessarily in everybody's arsenal is this, the Dremel. Now, I actually swear by the Dremel. Steel wire brush in it, absolutely perfect for many things. So to give you an idea of what it can do, we're going to clean the armature. Now you have to do this very carefully. You have to be very careful. You don't want to do any damage. You don't want to catch the solder at the edges where the coil wire, the carbon, sorry, the copper wires are soldered to the commutator. You need to be careful not to catch that. So we're very carefully now. Fire this up and I'll show you how I do the armature. Now, I am using a spyglass here so I can see what I'm doing, because obviously it's very accurate, it needs to be very accurate. So we'll gently just clean away, very gently, cleaning away, using an up and down motion so we keep it even all the way. Take off any build-up on the commutator. Just keep slowly turning a little bit more and a little bit more. Slowly working all the way around. And keep going till you get back to where you started. And then you kill the Dremel. Put that back. Now you can see a really nice clean armature. That's the way it should be, all nice and shiny and clean. Another very good use of the Dremel is for actually cleaning up the copper on the brushes and the connecting wire, which I'll show you here. You look, hold the Dremel and look at the brush. Now bear in mind I've already serviced this loco. You can see the bit there, look, where the wire on one, the positive has to have the connection from the little plate and the negative has to have the connection from the spring. So what I do with these is to very carefully hold them and then just clean them on the Dremel like so. Turn it round, do the other side. Don't press too hard, else that happens. Same with the other brush. Turn it over. And the same on the other side. Whoops, we're pressing too hard again. And there you'll see a very shiny brush connection point. Perfect. Also, with the Dremel in the right hand, I also clean up that little piece that connects to the brush. See there, look? Okay. Again, I hold it and clean out the trough section when it'll let me hold it. Clean out the trough section very carefully, both sides. Put that back so it shines and makes a good connection. You can see it's nice and shiny inside and out. The thing is with the copper connections, they actually tarnish over time, and it's things like that which can make the whole thing be a problem. Now, cleaning them up is essential. The wire brush in the Dremel is the best way. You can do it with the fluids and it sort of does okay, but it's not as good as shining them with a Dremel and a metal wheel in the Dremel. Okay, now we'll come to the brush retaining spring. Now, as we already know, one side of it has to be insulated by that insulated there because of the positive supply, but the negative supply is actually on the other part of the spring, and it relies on that part touching the brush under pressure to connect the negative to the motor. But it also relies on this bit being under the motor the magnet mounting screw, which is flanged, so it doesn't tighten up tight onto it, but it does have to connect for the negative. Now again, this loco has been serviced, so I've already done this spring, but let me explain what I normally do. I know this goes to the nearest point facing me, so I'll remove that, and using the emery cloth, I clean up the negative side by literally just cleaning it up as you would do, pulling it in and out till it shines, and hopefully you can see that it's shining now. It definitely makes a big difference, and the same thing applies to this. Again, there's no point in me really doing this, but you need to clean that top and bottom, and on the insides particularly as well, because they need to connect to this screw. Now, if we pick the motor up and you have a look at the flanged screw, you'll see exactly what I mean. Once the camera decides to focus, the screw has got a flange head on it. I'm on the wrong side here. Try that side, that's better. Okay, you see the screw, it's not sitting actually right flat down on the magnet because there's a shoulder, and the spring sits under the shoulder like so. So you can see why the spring has to be clean, because it's not tightened down on the screw, because the screw's got this shoulder section and obviously it needs to connect. So again, using the emery cloth, you need to clean the spring up because they are always tarnished and they're always a problem for the negative supply to the motor. Okay, I'm going to remove this again now because I want to show you something else which you're going to find probably quite interesting. You're probably wondering why earlier on at the beginning of the video that I showed you a compass, and you were probably wondering why the hell do I need a compass to service a motor. And here's why. It's not actually part of the servicing as such, but if you wished to change the magnet for one of the new Neo type, I forgot the name now, let's simply remove the screw and the nut from underneath, which is there. Put it carefully again on the flannelette towel. Hopefully here you can see now the shoulder on that screw. I'm hoping the camera's going to focus. It doesn't look like it is. Okay, there is a shoulder on this screw right just there. Okay, and it's that shoulder, yeah, you can see it now, that's the shoulder where the spring sits under. Okay, and that is why the spring needs to be clean. Okay, so to remove the magnet, obviously you take out the nut and bolt, very simple, and you remove it. Now, before we go any further, let's get a marker pen and mark the top of the magnet with a line. And there's a very good reason for doing this. If you put a new magnet in and it's the wrong way round, the loco will run backwards compared to all your other locos, which are obviously all done the same, to move in the correct direction the same way. So we take this away, take the magnet away, take the motor away from the magnet, and we've now got the magnet with the line. Now the magnetism It's north and south, as in top and bottom, or bottom and top. So I don't know which way around this is, but it's very simple to find out. By using a compass, we just simply point the magnet at the compass. Okay, and we know now that that is the north of the magnet, which means when we put the replacement magnet in, we know which way around to put it. So we just put that one out of the way for a minute, and we get the replacement magnet, which is one of the new Neo magnets. Now I'm not actually going to leave this one in the loco, but I'm going to do it just to show you how you get it right. So again, we point this magnet at the compass and we can see blatantly that it's the wrong way round. So we turn it round and we now can blatantly see that that is north. That is the correct way that we need to put this back in the motor. Now I will give you a warning about Neo magnets. I've changed quite a few on my locos and they are absolutely brilliant, but beware, they are so powerful you'll end up with a blister on your fingers before you even know it. They are so powerful, they will fly at the motor, and I'm going to give this as an example to you now. So watch very carefully, but keep your fingers out of the way. Believe me, I've already had some blisters with these. So again, new Neo magnet in place, as you can see. But as I say, I'm not going to leave it in this loco. This loco doesn't need it. But this is just a little addition to the servicing of the X04 motor, which I thought you might find interesting, how to learn to put the magnet in the correct way round. So I'm now going to try and remove it, and believe me, this is not easy. So that's not easy, as you can see. Okay, we'll put it out the way. I'm going to get the original magnet, and you'll see here now how, although the original magnet is fine on this particular loco, it's not going to fly in like the last one did. It just falls into place rather smoothly. So there we go. That's how to replace the magnet on an X04. It's time now to start piecing the motor back together. Now we've already done the spring, and as you can possibly see, hopefully you'll see, the spring has actually got it. It's not the bit that goes around the screw is actually elevated slightly, and that's done on purpose to obviously align the two pieces of spring perfectly with the brushes. So we need to put this back now, and we do that quite simply by hooking it under the head of the screw like so and pulling it into place, which should go easy, which it has. Now that's now back in place. I know the insulator goes on the one closest to me. I never bother cleaning that leg up actually, because we need it to be insulated anyway, so there's no point in really sort of polishing it up with the emery cloth. And I know that this always points towards me when I've got the worm drive on the right, on my right, which may be the opposite way around for you looking at the video, but I'm sure you can follow that one okay. Right, well now we need to put the brushes in. I always tend to start with the negative one. Woo, my insulator's fallen off. Right, okay, we need to hold that. Right, so we get the first brush and simply put it through the hole. Now I say simply, these are actually new brushes on this one, and they are a little bit tight, so I've actually cut a little bit out the top corners to help them ease them through a little bit. And then we'd obviously got to hold the spring tensioned to get the second one in, like so, and then we can let her go. Both the brushes clean, polished, in place, back in place, and of course the spring's been cleaned on the negative. It's been cleaned around the screw, so you can so the connection is good there. We've got the insulator on the positive section. The next thing we do now is we oil the pads, which is quite simply a bit of oil on that pad there. I always tend to drop a little bit down on the bearing straight away, and of course on this pad, the front pad, and a little bit of oil down on the bearing like that, and a bit on the worm drive as well. So we've now got our serviced and oiled and ready to run X04 motor. We now need to check the motor, and simple, try or my controller, any old controller will do. And something that a lot of people don't seem to do, and I don't understand why, and hopefully will from Intercity 82 will see this, because I just simply have a lead with the crocodile clips connected to it. This is so much easier than trying to put connections underneath screw terminals, etc, etc. This is so simple to do. A lead with a pair of croc clips on the end, and we can clip them to whatever you basically want to run. So what we'll do, we'll get the motor, we'll put one on the negative, and we'll put one on the live of the positive brush, which is the one which is insulated, as you can see from the spring from earlier, and then we'll crank her up slowly. Alright, there she is, running. Lovely. Let the oil penetrate, and we stop it and swing her backwards, and she's not going backwards, might need a little touch to get it running. Okay, just needs to run in a little bit, that's all. Okay. Sometimes, because I've got this clip hanging on the brush, that presses too hard. Maybe you can hear that now. She's flat out there now, the oil's got through. Just wants running in. And it's got that usual oily electrical smell about it. Right, so there we go, folks. How to service the X04 motor, get it back to life. Perfect. And with the motor back in place on the chassis, here we go. Backwards. And forwards. As I say, this chassis is a damaged one anyway, so it's only a spares. But yeah, X04 motor, fully serviced, back to life. Will last who knows how long. Typical X04 motor, built to last, absolutely bulletproof. Bye.